Did you know that small lies can lead to idol worship? The Chazon Ish has been teaching us that lies are terrible for everybody. Big lies, small lies, white lies, or whatever other way they try to beautify the falsehood, it's all bad. The question is, why is it compared to idol worship, and how could it even lead to idol worship? All of this will be addressed in such a fashion that you're going to question, how did you even question it? Why? Because this is something we have seen in real time over the last few years, and unfortunately turned its ugly head in the last several days. Things we warned you about, things we've told you about, and things, unfortunately, the world, the Jewish world, has sat quiet about. This is not just a lie, it's a lie that's destroying our people. Watch tonight the truth unfold. As the Torah tells us, the truth will come out of the ground, even if you try to hide it. Eventually it comes out. And Baruch HaShem, that we have the chance to not only show you the words of our sages come to life, but it's still time for us to do something about it. Learn the truth, share the truth, and remember, holiness is what we're commanded to do. But that holiness sits on the same foundation alongside truth. And truth is the signature of God. Be holy, and the only way to holiness is with truth. Hashem na'aseh v'natzliach. Shul Torah, B'ruchim Habayim. We're back here starting a new week. Continuing our series of Jewish HaShkafa. The night before the big Ilula of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Lag BaOmer. Tonight's shiur will be for the Refuah Shlema for Rabbanit Sarah Bat Anat, Rav Ephraim Ben Shulamit, Rabbanit Levana Bat Sarah, Avi Mori David Ben Esriya, Imi Morati Doris Bat Zora, and also for all of Am Yisrael and all the righteous Noahis that continue to support and watch our videos, continue to donate their time, their skills. Baruch Hashem for all of you. So tonight, we're just reminding everybody to go to the Kiruv store and get some more of these free cards to distribute in their community. These cards, Baruch Hashem, have reached people around the world. And Baruch Hashem, many people have been watching the movies, whether it's the Tikkun HaBrit or Hashem Took Back His Millions. You can get them for free by going to kiruvstore.org. Kiruv is K-I-R-U-V. Store, S-T-O-R-E.org. You could also donate over there. You could donate on our regular website, BeEzrat.org, or BHTorah.org. Okay, with that being said, Baruch Hashem, we have a special night tomorrow night. That's Lag BaOmer, and for any of you that have been watching for some time, remember last year we did a special event, shiur, which BeEzrat Hashem we're going to be doing tomorrow night as well. So we're going to have a short shiur tomorrow night. BeEzrat Hashem will do our best to have it on live. So this is unlike our regular schedule, which is usually shiurim on Sunday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. This week, BeEzrat Hashem will also adding Monday night, BeEzrat Hashem. So it's going to be at around 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time for all of you that are watching. So we have our Jewish HaShkafa series really shocking us from week to week about the correct way to behave, the correct way to serve Hashem, and most recently, the correct way to speak, the correct way to think, which is without lies. Now, the Chazon Ish certainly shocked us when he brought up the teachings of the sages from the Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin and several other places in the Zohar, as well as in other places around the Torah, where lies are compared to idolatry. And the question is that, people have asked, well, I understand that lies are not good. I understand that idol worshippers are lying to people by telling them that they could simply be relieved of their sins by simply believing in one man, or that the Torah changed, even though the Torah itself says it would never change. So I understand that the liars are idolatry, but how does a lie, especially a small one, lead to idolatry? And this is one of the things we're going to delve deeper into from last week, as well as a little expansion on this week, to try to explain to you not only the words of the sages, but actually bring them to life. Now, the Chazon Ish says that if a slight lie that does not harm anyone is hateful, purposeful deceit, speaking with a barbed tongue, using lies, ruses, and plots calculated to trick one's fellow man, is surely doubly abominable. And the sages called it illness of the soul. So here we see that the Chazon Ish is not skipping a beat. He's doubling down on everything that we've already learned, and is telling us that if a lie that perhaps you thought is not going to harm anyone is considered an abomination, no different than the behavior of such people, the way that people do simply live their life. But simply put, the lies themselves grow and manifest into something much worse, so much so that there is no good ending to a lie, whether small or bad. And that's why when the Chazon Ish is telling you lies, he's including all of them. It's an all-inclusive deal. Whether it's a small lie that you thought that you can say just to make somebody feel better, or it's a big lie that certainly is going to try to scam somebody out of money or out of something else that you want from them. And needless to say, lies when it comes to beliefs, lies when it comes to God. So one of the examples that the Chazon Ish used as the foundation for all of this is from none other than Yaakov Avinu, our forefather Yaakov. And he brings that Yaakov Avinu in Genesis chapter 27 verse 12 is told by his mother Rivka that he has to lie. He has to lie. Why does he have to lie? Because Esau, his brother, his evil twin brother, has been lying to his father Yitzchak all of his life, and instead of being the good yeshiva boy that he pretends to be, the righteous person that pretends like he's giving maaser on salt and other things that don't need to give maaser, which is the tithe, he really is an evil murderer, rapist. And in fact, the sages teach us that on the day that these blessings were given, Esau committed all of the sins, the worst cardinal sins. He committed murder, rape, adultery, idolatry, literally everything under the sun in a single day. And if that wasn't enough, he even lied to his father, where his father Yitzchak told him, bring me some food, kosher food to eat. Since Esau could not succeed in hunting deer, he ended up killing his two dogs, and ended up serving them as food to his father. So here we see that the lies of Esau penetrated really deeply, to such an extent that even his own father couldn't tell. But yet at the same token, Rivka, the tzadikah, our matriarch, is telling her son Yaakov, the righteous one, to in essence seemingly do the same thing and lie in order to get the blessing. Now, of course, the average person out there that's not learned is they say if you steal from a thief, you're innocent. If you lie to a liar, then you're innocent. Now, of course, this is something that is far from the truth as can possibly be. But needless to say, we have to explain why. So Yaakov Avinu says in the Torah that perhaps my father will feel me, and I shall be as a mocker in his eyes, and I will thus bring upon myself a curse rather than a blessing. And his mother says to him, your curse be on me, my son. Only heed my voice and go fetch them for me. See here, Rivka is telling Yaakov, you have to understand, everything that I'm telling you is a prophecy I got from God. God told me to tell you this. God told me to instruct you to do all of these things. Any curse that will come from this will be upon me. But still we have to take Yaakov's words into account. He's telling us that if his father recognizes that the suit that he has on that is hairy in order to pretend like as if he is Esau, if it's discovered, then that means that the blessing that he was going to get will turn into a lie. Now, here we see Yaakov showing us how petrified he is of lies. And in fact, the Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin, page 92a, says that whoever changes his words from truth to falsehood, it's as if he's worshipping idols. Because we see that the same language is used that Yaakov used by the prophet Jeremiah in chapter 10, verse 15, that he says that these acts are ta'tuim, which is in essence the same word that Yaakov used, that these false acts are the acts of idolaters, meaning that lies are compared to idol worship. Fine, we get it that lies are not good, but idol worship also not good. Even the idol worshippers will tell you that idol worship is not good, because many of them don't even realize that what they're doing by serving some guy or saying that God is three or all types of other nonsensical beliefs, they don't even realize themselves that they're committing idolatry. But the point being is that we understand that all of this is bad, but how does a small lie lead to idolatry? That's something that we have to uncover today. Now, Yaakov Avinu, he was the perfect human being. And the Torah says, the prophet Micha says, Titen emet liYaakov, give emet to Yaakov. Emet is another word for truth, but also for Torah. But it also is teaching us that Yaakov's midah, his ultimate character trait, was midat ha'emet. He was the ultimate truth speaker. So Esau, on the other hand, he's midat ha'sheker. But yet, his sheker, his lies, actually still got a blessing. And in fact, when we see later on in that parashat Toldot, after Yaakov gets the blessing, and it's uncovered that he actually took the blessing under the wool, put the wool over the eyes, if you will, of Esau, and the blessing is already, in essence, spent, Yitzchak did not retract the blessing. He didn't say, oh, listen, I blessed the wrong guy, let me bless Esau now. But rather, he said, Esau, the blessing is gone. He's the one that was supposed to get it from Shemayim, from heaven. HaShem decreed that he's the one that's supposed to get the blessing. So when Esau starts crying, Yitzchak gives him a blessing. And in fact, that blessing still stands till this day, where he tells him that, yes, Yaakov will be the leader. Yaakov will be the chosen one. Yaakov is the blessed one. But if he doesn't do the will of HaShem, you will have the power over him. And this, by the way, explains why Esau, until this day, has so much control and power over Yaakov. Why the idolaters, why the Erev Rav, why the people that are connected to Amalek, and people that in essence celebrate the words of Amalek, why they actually have so much power over the Jewish people. This is in fact part of the blessing that they got from Yitzchak Avinu. But it's our fault. If we as a Jewish people would do the will of HaShem, Esau loses all of its power. Because that blessing is dependent on Yaakov not doing the will of HaShem. Now, Yaakov is saying to us that if he's caught lying, this will turn into a mockery. But even more so, he's telling us that even if he's not caught lying, this could be considered as idol worship. And it could bring a curse rather than a blessing. So the first thing we have to know is that anything connected to a lie loses its blessing. If you're going to lie to your wife, to your husband, to your kids, to your teachers, to your congregation, already you're losing whatever blessing you were supposed to get, you're losing it. Why? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs away from lies. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that his signature is Emet, as the Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin, in the Yerushalmi, chapter 1, Halacha number 1, says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, his signature is Emet. And the way that this is exemplified the most is in the Bet Din of heaven. In the Bet Din of heaven, the judicial court of heaven, everyone sees Hashem's Emet. There's a judge, there's a Din. Now even there, the sages teach us that Hashem shows his ultimate humility by, in essence, using the opinions of others, the other righteous people, the other souls that he created to, in essence, help him judge. Not that he needs their help, but in essence, to give them a position. Now, how is this connected in any way to truth? How is this connected to his signature? Because the ultimate way to show truth is by humility. And in fact, someone that is arrogant, by default, is a liar. By default. Because arrogance in itself is a person lying to themselves by saying that they are better than what they really are. They expect people to respect them. They expect people to applaud them. They expect people to honor them because they believe that they are better than what they really are. Now, how could this possibly be always a lie? Maybe they are that good. Because anyone that is a person of truth knows, first and foremost, before you criticize others, you look in the mirror. Before you even dare being arrogant about even the smallest thing that you did any good, look at the source of where you got this ability to do good. You have a good memory? Who gave you the memory? You have a lot of money? Who gave you the money? You have a beautiful family? Who gave you the family? You said something good? Who gave you the ability to speak? You have certain possessions? Who gave you and who can take those possessions from you? And in fact, the ultimate truth is when a person knows exactly where they stand and all of their flaws. You know that sometimes you forget. You know that sometimes you don't have money. You know that sometimes you're not always in a good mood. You know that sometimes you have a stomach ache or a headache, or you're stuck in a bathroom, or you are late to appointments, or all types of things. So why are you pretending to be all that? Why are you pretending like you are the best all the time, and you're always this, and you're always that? What's the show for? So the arrogant person is by default always a liar. Whereas a person of truth, by default, that makes that person more and more humble. The more honest the person is with themselves, the more humble they become. So if you're finding yourself that you cannot get along with anybody around you and everybody complains that you think you're better than everybody complains that you claim to be you're better than everybody, or you know more than everybody, then guess what? They're right and you're wrong by default. Why? Because if you really truly possess knowledge, then you would also show them where you got that knowledge, and that the knowledge is not necessarily yours to claim possession over. If you truly possessed skill, you would also give your abilities and the credit for all of your abilities to the one above, and it's not yours. So a person that shows constant arrogance is not only someone that is a constant liar that's very hard to deal with, but the Gemara teaches us that even his family hates him. So here we see that the arrogance is connected to lying. Honesty connected to humility. Honest person knows his flaws and his limitations, whereas the chronic liar is someone that not only has the limitation of having a flawed character trait and inability to maintain relationships, but even more so, those lies, that chronic lying addiction, or as the Chazon Ish calls it, that spiritual illness leads to many horrible things. But we still haven't arrived at idolatry yet. The BEIT HaLevi brings an extraordinary chidush. The BEIT HaLevi, anyone that watched our Bitachon BeHaShem series of I think it was 19 lectures, I believe, either 16 or 19 lectures, that truly transformed the minds of any single person that has watched it. I already have multiple people telling me they're already on their third or fourth time, and I think in one case, fifth or sixth time, doing the whole series all over again, teaching each and every single one of us how to eliminate anxiety from your life. How anxiety in itself is not only a lack of confidence in HaShem, lack of Bitachon, but it's actually a sin. It's a sin that nearly got all of Am Yisrael annihilated in a desert. because we didn't have enough confidence in Hashem. Now the Beit HaLevi also speaks about this verse, also speaks about this particular issue that we're dealing with at hand here, with Yaakov Avinu. And he says that Yaakov is known as the ultimate man of truth. Esau is known as the person of the utmost lies. Everything about him is a lie, even his reincarnation as the blasphemer, as Yoshke, as Jesus, as Korach, as all of them were liars. In fact, one of the things that we see about Moshe Rabbeinu being the Moshe Emet and Torah Emet, Moses is Emet, he's truth, and his Torah is truth, his arch enemy Korach is screaming that in Gehinnom right now, 3,334 years later. He tried to tell everybody that Moshe Rabbeinu was a liar, was an adulterer, was a cheater, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu opened up the mouth of Gehinnom in the middle of the desert. One of the three openings of Gehinnom is in the desert, the other one is in the ocean, the third one is in Yerushalayim. And opened up the gate of Gehinnom, swallowed Korach and whoever followed him, and until this day, the Gemara in Masechet Shabbat says, they're all screaming in Gehinnom as they're being roasted, that Moshe Rabbeinu is Emet. Moshe Rabbeinu is truth. And in fact, one of the things that we see about Moshe Rabbeinu in his truth is that he was humble. Truth leads to humility. Lies leads to arrogance. So the Beit HaLevi says that Yaakov Avinu was the ultimate pillar of truth. So when his mom tells him, you have to lie, he's not just telling her, this can lead to me being exposed, this can lead to this blessing turning into a curse, but he's telling her, I am incapable of lying. I'm incapable, I can't lie. So Yaakov Avinu says, I can't do anything that's a lie. The most that he can do is put on this jacket that his mom made for him. Everybody puts on a jacket. But once I go to Abba, once I go to Yitzchak Avinu, I can't tell him, hey, listen, by the way, I'm Esau. I kill people for a living. I pretend to be righteous. I can't do all of that. In fact, the question that the Beit HaLevi asks is, why did Yaakov talk so much once he saw Yitzchak? Where he says, Anochi, Esau bechorecha. I'm here. Esau is your firstborn. If you're worried about lying, minimize the speech. Why so many words? Don't say anything if you can't lie. Says the Beit HaLevi, a chidush worth $1 million, and I'll give it to you for free because you're watching live. The Beit HaLevi says, Yaakov Avinu knew he's incapable of lying, but at the same token knew that there's a decree from heaven that obligates him to follow the words of his mother. What can I do? Is a dilemma. He says, I'm going to sacrifice my life. I'm going to do the most that I can do without lying. So he goes to his father with the jacket. Whether his father chooses to touch him, not touch him, to feel whether he's him or he's not, doesn't know. He goes up to his father, says, I'm here. Esau is your firstborn. Meaning the sentence is broken up. I am here. Esau is your firstborn. A statement of truth. So the question that the Chachamim ask is, how did Yitzchak, the father, who now has lost his vision, which means that his ability to hear is now much better because it's now exponentially better, simply because you lose one vision, the other visions become much more sensitive. How did he not identify Yaakov Avinu's voice? Because Yaakov Avinu went with Hashem. He says, listen, nothing good can come out of lying. I'm not going to lie. Whatever Hashem decides to bring out of this, he'll bring. Most I can do is put the jacket on. Yaakov Avinu comes, talks to his father, gets the blessing. How did this all transpire? The Beit HaLevi says the following. Esau, being that he's a liar, he also suspects everyone else to be a liar. This is the nature of criminals. The nature of liars is to always suspect other people of lying. The nature of thieves is always to suspect other people of stealing. If you have a partner in your business that doesn't trust you, that's because he's stealing. If you have any type of relationship with the person that's constantly questioning, where have you been? What are you doing? What's going on? Guess what? It's very likely they're the one that's cheating. Why? Because a cheater expects everyone to behave the same. Esau, being the ultimate liar, says, there's no way that Yaakov is not going to try to steal this from me. Yaakov is going to try to steal it from me. What about the fact that he bought the firstborn rights from you? Come on, it was just for soup. Yeah, but that was the deal. Deal is voided. Says who? Says me. Says the Esau. So now I have to stop Yaakov, Esau says. I have to stop Yaakov. How do I stop Yaakov? If Yaakov comes to my father, he's probably going to pretend to be me. And he's going to probably pretend, since father can't see, he's going to simply change his voice. He's going to try to sound like me. So what am I going to do? Esau goes to his father. He says, Abba, listen, I don't want to break the bad news to you, but your son Yaakov, he's a problem. He's a problem. He's probably going to try to fool you and me. So listen, I'm going to go get the blessing. I'm going to go get the food. But in the case that somebody comes here and it sounds like me, don't believe him. Don't believe him, because I'm not going to talk to you in my voice. I'm going to talk to you in Yaakov's voice. So if somebody with Yaakov's voice comes, then you know it's me. Hence the reason why when Yaakov Avinu comes and he says to his father, I am here, Esau is your firstborn. Yaakov says, let me feel you. He feels it, and he says, Akol kol Yaakov, vayadayim yedei Esau. The voice is the voice of Yaakov, like you said it's going to be. And the hands are the hands of Esau, so this is Esau. Here we see how HaKadosh Baruch Hu manipulated reality in order to make sure that his will is fulfilled. But only because Yaakov followed the truth until the end with no exceptions. Now, the Chachamim go further in the Zohar Kadosh, or in fact first in the Masechet Kala Rabbatit, in chapter 2, Halakha number 5. It says, in addition to being scared of a lie, being scared of losing the blessing, being scared of turning this whole thing into a joke, Yaakov did not want to lose another part of his soul to the Satan as a result of this lie. How? The Chachamim teach that anyone who wastes seed or lies is like an idol worshiper. Anyone who wastes seed or lies is like an idol worshiper. What's the connection? Brit Milah and Brit Apeh. There's the covenant of the Brit Milah, of circumcision, and there's the covenant of the mouth. The word Milah means Brit Milah, circumcision, but also means, Milah means word. The word Peh means mouth. Both of them have the gematria, the numerical value of 85. Peh is 80, the Peh is 80, and the Hey is 5, 85. Milah, which either represents the word or the Brit Milah, also is 85. Mem is 40. Yud is 10, so we have 50. Lamed is 30, so we have 80. And Hey is 5, 85. And the sages teach that just like you have the covenant of the Milah, of the Brit, you also have the covenant of the mouth. And therefore the Zohar Kadosh says in Parashat Shmot, page 3b, the sages call someone who wastes seed meshaker babrit, someone who lies with his covenant, the covenant of the Brit, and which they elaborate on saying that someone that's a meshaker babrit, meaning someone that wastes seed, is like someone who lies to Hashem, who is someone who lies with Hashem's name. And one who lies with the signature of the king, it's as if he's lying to the king himself. What's the lying signature of the king? The word is emet. And therefore, the Chachamim say that this sheker of the mouth, or the sheker of the brit, someone that wastes seed, someone who's promiscuous, someone that's together and intimate with somebody that they're forbidden to be with, that person is in essence making a double sin. Not only are they wasting seed, not only are they lying with their mouth and their words, but they're also going against the word of God. They're violating the signature of God. Now, when a person looks at some of the teachings about Yaakov, one of the things we find out when Yaakov Avinu gives a blessing to his sons, the 12 tribes. The first he gives to Reuven. And the Reuven is firstborn. He says to Reuven, "You are my first seed. You are my first power that came out of my body." Meaning, as the Gemara in Masechet Yevamot, page 71 says, that Yaakov Avinu never had keri, never had seed leave his body until it was to produce and create his firstborn son, Reuven. And Yaakov only got married when he was 84 years old. So for over 80 years, Yaakov Avinu protected his brit to the highest possible level, to the point where the first seed that came out of his body was producing his firstborn Reuven. So not only is Yaakov someone that excelled, and his foundation was the brit of the never lying, Titen emet Yaakov, give truth to Yaakov, but that coincided with the other brit, which is the Brit Kodesh. Now, a person that lies cannot protect their brit. Where do we know this from? The Sefer Migdalot Mirkachim by Rabbi Yitzchak Greenwald. He writes commentary on the entire Torah. Part of it is on the prophets and the writings. On his section about the Nevi'im and the Ketuvim, the prophets and the writings, on page 83, he brings commentary on Psalm 120, verse 2. The verse says the following. David HaMelech cries to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as he always does, and he says, Adonai atzila nafshi misifat sheker milashon remiyah. Hashem, rescue my soul from lying lips, from a deceitful tongue. So, the Baal Migdalot Mirkachim asked the obvious question. Why did David HaMelech duplicate his words? Where he's asking Hashem, pleading with Hashem, please save me from the lying lips and from a deceitful tongue, because lying lips are obviously a deceitful tongue. It's one and the same. What's the point of mentioning both? Either save me from lying lips, which tell lies, or the lying tongue, which comes from lying lips. Why both? Says the Migdalot Mirkachim, Hashem, rescue me from these lying lips, from these deceitful tongue, is telling us, we know that the protection of the Brit Kodesh is the foundation, just like the Zohar Kadosh said. And the protection of the Brit leads to the protection from all sins. And just like the end of your clothing, every piece of clothing that you have, no matter how fancy, no matter how beautiful, no matter how simple, at the end of your shirt, at the end of your pants, at the end of everywhere that they sewed, they put an extra layer over there. An extra layer to make sure that it doesn't rip, to make sure that it doesn't come apart. That's what David HaMelech is doing here. He's putting an extra layer because there's extra help needed, not just from the lying lips, but also from the lying tongue, in order to teach us that if a person, chas v'shalom, lies with his brit sheker, he's pogem brit, he wastes seed, certainly that's going to lead him to lies. And if he lies, certainly that's going to lead him to waste seed, because the two are connected as if they're one. The lying lips, deceitful words, deceitful tongue, they go together. Now, the Torah says, Emet me'eretz titzmach. The truth will grow from the ground. In order, also words of David HaMelech, in order to teach us that no matter how much you try to cover the truth, eventually it will come out. Which means that eventually the lies will be exposed. Whether it's a big lie or a small lie, eventually it will be exposed. In fact, the most horrible lies are usually the lies that are behind the scenes, where someone is, a con man of some kind, or someone is cheating somebody's doing something evil, but usually they don't do it in the open, in the public. Those lies eventually come out. No one dies with their lies dying with them. Those lies will come out at some point, and the truth will come. Just like the Mishnah in Masechet Avot says, someone that desecrates Hashem's name in private, the punishment would be to expose this person in public. So even the so-called white lie or small lie, all types of other descriptions that people put to lies today, almost making it like so beautiful as if it's a mitzvah to lie. It's white, it's pretty, it's clean. There's nothing pretty, there's nothing clean about it. 99% truth equals 100% lie. There is no version of a lie that's good. And therefore, if you're lying to somebody, eventually that will come out. This was one of the things that Yaakov Avinu was petrified from. Is this a lie that will come to harm me and turn this into a curse? Hence the reason why he simply could not bring himself to lie, because he was living a reality as if the lie is coming out. Now, when a person lies to the public about small things, thinking that everyone's a fool or people won't figure it out, it's only a matter of time before the public realizes there's something wrong. But unfortunately, sometimes the public has eaten up so many lies, they have no ability, or they've lost their ability to decipher between the lies and the truth. Or sometimes they simply are addicted to the lies. A couple of years ago, we exposed the wicked head rabbi of England, named Ephraim Mervis, Shem Reshaim Yirkav. This guy pretended to be a Jewish religious leader, continues to pretend he's a Jewish religious leader, trying to create unity among the Jewish people, by doing something that no other rabbi in the history of Judaism has ever done, at least not Orthodox Judaism. Uniting the Jewish people with the Muslims, with the Christians, visiting the Pope, complimenting the Pope. You're never going to see him complimenting the greatest sages of the previous generation. But you do see him headlines in multiple newspapers being quoted as complimenting the Pope, the chief idol worshiper of the world. He compliments him. He mocks our sages. He mocks our forefathers, saying that King David, Yaakov, and many of the other forefathers we have had mental illnesses. But yet he compliments the chief idol worshiper, the Pope, by saying, oh, he admires him.
And you know, in a biblical context, many people aren't aware that there are many significant biblical characters who suffered from mental illness of one sort or another, such as Jacob, King Saul, King David, Job, the prophet Elijah, the prophet Jonah, and others. And therefore we see that these issues go back in time, all the way back to the beginning of time.
If that wasn't enough, he also did something that no other rabbi in Orthodox Jewry, I say, real rabbi, has ever done. He decides to write a book about how LGBTQ is perfectly fine, perfectly acceptable. Now again, what people do in the privacy of their home, it's their business. But to go and change the laws of Judaism, change the laws of the Torah, and publicize it as if this is a new version of the Torah that apparently he's the only one that's aware of, obviously was problematic then, needless to say, is problematic now, as you see how things have transpired. He protects the enemies of Judaism, such as people like Dweck, that literally distorted the Torah in public in the most obnoxious, disgusting, mocking way by calling the love between King David and Yonatan a love that is forbidden according to the Torah, saying that this is the greatest thing that happened to society is this LGBTQ stuff. This is obviously something that's clearly mocking the Torah and its creator. Needless to say, the behavior that he had when he told the Jewish people of his community that they need to have a special prayer on Shabbat rooting for the local soccer team, or they call it football in the UK, so they could win. Now, if these things weren't bad enough to throw him out, not only out of his office, but out of Jewry altogether, because unfortunately they weren't, because the public kept him in his position, perhaps the community would wake up now, because the arrogance has gotten to such a point that now violating the Torah in open daylight is no longer a problem for this clown. In fact, he is actually letting the people know that they should celebrate with him as he mocks the Torah, as he violates the Torah, by making a short video last week that he plans on being in church on Shabbat to celebrate the new King of England.
A chief rabbi in a church on a Shabbat morning. That's exactly what I will be doing on Coronation Day. And I'll be walking in the footsteps, literally walking in the footsteps, of my esteemed predecessor, Chief Rabbi Herman Adler, who in 1902 walked to Westminster Abbey on a Shabbat morning for the coronation of King Edward VII. And when doing so, I will have the enormous privilege to represent our community, the Jewish communities of the Commonwealth, at the coronation of King Charles III, to whom we extend all of our very best wishes for good health, for happiness, and a wonderful reign.
Now, if the inauguration of the new king was done in the king's palace, in some auditorium, some event, some hall, You and I can go too. But the moment that it's done in a church, according to all opinions, whether you look at the opinions of the Gemara, the Zohar, the Halacha of the Rambam, Shulchan Aruch, it doesn't matter where you go. No Jew is ever allowed to step into a church. And instead of running away or rejecting this invitation by simply saying, I'm sorry, as the king is aware of the Jewish religion, because the actual royalty of England is very well aware of Judaism, as they for generations have been circumcising their children, as they for generations have been aware of the Sabbath laws, Shabbat. In fact, the King of England told this Melvis clown that he shouldn't attend because it's Shabbat. And instead of saying, you know what, Your Highness, you're right, instead of like using that as an excuse, as you're right, I can't go, it's Shabbat. Shabbat is for my people, Shabbat is for my God. He double downs on his evil and says, think this, a Orthodox rabbi going to a church on Shabbat, and he's celebrating it, and he's publicizing it. The level of arrogance of this Chilul Hashem is not only something that is hurting him and going to give him an eternal damnation, an eternal Gehinnom, but I could assure you, it is damaging every single one of us Jews around the world. Because the moment that we sit there silently and do nothing, as someone with a position of power like he does, desecrates the name of God in such capacity and turns the truth into a lie and the lie into a truth, we're all in jeopardy. This is the reason why we have to rebuke. The last thing I ever wanted was to bring up this person. But unfortunately today, you have sleeping communities. People are spiritually numb. They see Judaism being turned upside down from every walk of life, from every color, from every gender, from every town, from every city. But yet the number one concern is a coronavirus that's gone, a vaccine that's questionable if it ever worked, and how to make more money. When are we finally going to wake up and realize that we're being led by some people that should not lead? Certainly there are many great rabbis out there, great gdolim, great tzaddikim, but you barely ever hear people celebrate them as much as they celebrate the enemies of the Torah, the lies against the Torah. The moment that the Rishon LeZion, Sheikhye, says anything that's from the Torah, that is contrary to what the media believes to be what should be the truth, that's contrary to what people want to be the truth, immediately they go against him, literally stoning him through the digital screen. But when you have a guy that is stoning the Torah, burning the Torah in open daylight, publicizing it himself, not a single word comes out. No articles, no public rebuke. In fact, this is probably the first time you've even heard of it, or at least heard of the rebuke part and the protest against it. This is because he has been feeding the community lies little by little. A small lie got bigger and bigger and eventually led to idolatry. Now, if he was the only case, we would actually be in good shape. But it's not. As you all know, we have the infamous Menace Friedman constantly telling the world that God needs them instead of we need God. Not just ending off with that distorted understanding that he has, but concluding with the fact that since God needs people, according to him and his distorted logic, therefore he cannot punish them. Hence the reason why he says in multiple videos of his that after 2,000 years of Jewish exile, and how God pretty much spoke to us once in Mount Sinai and never again, he owes us an apology, and therefore he cannot punish anybody, removing one of the 13 principles of fate. And if anybody even questions him about, well, what about punishment? What is Gehinnom? Oh, it's just when the soul is so used to being a body, it doesn't know how to be a soul. So it just gets an adjustment period for the soul to know how it is to be a body. It almost sounds like the guy went into a cold environment and he didn't know what to do until somebody gave him a jacket. Almost sounds like a place you want to go to. Removing the words of the sages in the Gemara, removing the words of the sages in the Zohar Kadosh, removing the words of the Chachamim from Chassidut, removing the words of the Rishonim and the Achronim that they actually said, even in Halacha, talking about judgment, talking about the details of Gehinnom, removing all of that, uprooting all of that, and literally misleading the public in such an open fashion, with such zeal and arrogance, his listeners swear it's true. When he was recently questioned that about how could God need us? He needs the mitzvahs? The Santa Claus says God is a mitzvah. God is a mitzvah? Wait, so you're telling me that God is the Shiur Torah? God is Netilat Yadayim? God is when someone is procreating with his wife? God is somebody making a blessing on eating? That's your God? Obviously, that if that's the God that you believe in, then certainly he needs you, because he doesn't exist without you. Our God is not our mitzvahs. And no one in the world of Judaism has ever said such a stupid thing. But yet, he says it with such audacity, such arrogance, you'd swear it's true. In fact, he even has the audacity to say in a video he was questioned recently in the 18th minute approximately, that no one, and in essence, he's going across the entire globe of a Torah. You're talking about from a time of the Rin Torah itself, the oral Torah, the Zohar, the Mishnah, the Sifri, the Sifra, you have the halachic books, the Geonim, the Achronim, the Rishonim, the Amoraim, literally everything out there. Chassidut, Baal Shem Tov, everybody. No one, apparently according to him, has ever said that God doesn't need us. In so many words, saying that everyone agrees that God needs us. But yet, when he's asked, can you provide a source, one source, that says God needs you or needs anything? He says, I'm not going to bring a source. It's ridiculous that anybody would even ask me for a source. Do you know why he doesn't bring a source? Because unlike what he said multiple times and openly recently, there is no source. It simply doesn't exist. The lie just continued growing to the point where he literally dug himself his own grave in a video that he publicized, saying that no one ever said that God doesn't need you. No one. What about the dozens of sources that were brought in a dozen shiurim that Rabbi Ephraim and I have made, that Rabbi Zachi has made, from the Gemara, from Onkelos, from the Zohar, from the Torah itself, the 5 books of Moses? What about that? All of that is nothing. And yet, people continue to watch him, continue to defend him, and he continues to poison more and more people's minds with his lies.
Here's what Jewish thinking should be. We are not needy and dependent on God. God is the one who is needy, and he is dependent on us. That's faith. So I'm not even going to defend the idea that the mitzvahs are him, not a creation that he made up at some point, within time, within space, within creation. The mitzvah it has to be him, because there was only him. Does it say anywhere, does anyone of any authority say that the Eibishter doesn't need a mitzvah? There's no such statement. The mitzvahs are his mitzvahs. He needs matzah. Why am I eating matzah? Do I need it? Now that's a good question. So it may be wrong to say that the Eibishter needs the mitzvah, but it's so much more wrong to say that he doesn't. He doesn't need the mitzvah? Then what is a mitzvah? The first thing is, when you say, does the Eibishter need? Need what? So there are two parts to the question. Does he need a mitzvah? He is the mitzvah. He's not made up of parts, and he didn't invent himself. He is the mitzvah, and the mitzvah is him. Kul Echad. Now the question is, what does that have to do with creation? Or in simple words, why do we do the mitzvah if it's him? So firstly, we now understand when we do a mitzvah, what effect does it have on us? We become him. We become this ached with him.
HaShkafa, as we know, is not going on the deepest level of God, right? That's pushback I get all the time on that. Yeah, there's a certain level of God, which is one with the Torah and the Jew. But that's only the level of HaShkafa.
It's so embarrassing how shallow people's questions are. If the mitzvah is not him, and if we are not him, but on some lower level we get connected, then we'll never be echad. It's an artificial connection that didn't exist until yesterday. All of a sudden we're connected. That's called echad. And the same would say, he wanted it, and now that he wants it, it's necessary. Something doesn't become necessary after not being necessary, in the true sense of the word. Something can't become essential. Essential means it is the essence. It can't become the essence. That's so foolish. So if it's echad, it has to be at the highest level before there is anything unnatural or created or manufactured. So thinking that the Eibishter is involved in the lowest levels, but the highest levels of him really is detached. It's horrible. It's horrible. The real him doesn't need, so the Torah is not real. Well, that's
This perspective that we're sharing is based on pretty much only Chabad Chassidus.
not based on any quotes. I'm trying to present the unavoidable aspect of it. Don't debate a pasuk or a quote because if it's debatable, then it's not good anymore. If you need a raya from a pasuk, it's no good. And the Eibishter is a product of Torah, or is Torah him?
I'm saying, but this perspective that you're trying to share with the world, and so many rabbis don't agree or understand it the same way.
There is no rabbi who knows anything that disagrees.
But it seems to be saying now that you're saying it has nothing to do really with any sources or any text. This is just plain basic, simple logic. And of course, there are sources on the other side, like the Rambam, that God has no needs, and you have to start picking that apart. But you're saying it has nothing to do with Chabad Chassidus?
Look, if a kid asks you, a yeshiva bacher, a bright yeshiva bacher, says, why do I need to do this? Why do I need to do this? What if I don't do it? What do you say? It's the most fundamental, obvious, basic question. What if I don't keep Shabbos? What is the answer? Every intelligent kid is going to ask you, why? What if I don't? What are you going to say? Other than schar and English, which you're not supposed to say. So that's it. You're finished. And you haven't gotten to first base. And then you have to ask yourself, why do you do it? To become a gadol? To be a shas yid? So does David have an arm? Of course he has. He has everything. But it's not as real as mine. No, yours is not as real as his. We are created in his image, not the other way around. So does Yad Hashem mean Yad Hashem? Of course it does. The Torah says it, so it's real. After putting us in Golus for 2,000 years, after giving us a Yetzirah, after creating sins, he is going to punish us if we do a sin? That sounds like a monster. That's indecent. It's like blaming the victim. Today, because of how long the Golus has gone on, there isn't a Jew in the world who deserves punishment, no matter what he does.
I even had a young Bachur, guy that had a good HaShkafa, good head on his shoulders, learned for many years, fell for the trap recently. And he says to me, listen, Rabbi, I know that he's a kufer and he says things that are against the Torah, but you know that some things that he says are true. So maybe we could take the truth and just discount the lies as if such a thing is permissible. It's like saying, I know that the water has some poison in it, but maybe if I just drink with leaning to the side, I will just get the good water, the clean water, and the poisonous water will stay behind. The Gemara in Masechet Moed Katan says clearly, if your rabbi does not have the midot of a malach, meaning the midah of emet, if he's not true to the Torah, if he does not change the Torah and distort it, if he is a liar, you cannot listen to him. You cannot learn from him anything. In fact, Rabbi Eliezer ben Holkinos, the rabbi of Rabbi Akiva, one time laughed at what a heretic said. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu almost killed him for it. Gemara Masechet Avodah Zara. We bring sources. We don't make up anything. Do you know why? Because that's part of Emet. The Mishnah in Masechet Avot brings a teaching, a foundational teachings of the Torah that saved the Jewish people. We just completed an extraordinary holiday of Pesach that was preceded by Purim. Many people read, or at least hear, the Megillat Esther. But they don't realize the Megillat Esther is one of the most important events that ever happened to the Jewish people. Not only because it saved the Jewish people from Hitler of its time, but also because they were saved because of truth. The Mishnah in Masechet Avot says the following. When Mordechai saw the two wicked servants of Achashverosh planned to kill him, Bigtan and Teresh were their names. They didn't know he speaks their language. The Sanhedrin, which Mordechai was one of them, was number 4 in the Sanhedrin. They knew 70 languages. That was one of the prerequisites of being in a Sanhedrin. The Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin gives the details of what it takes to be part of the Sanhedrin. One of them is that you needed to know 70 languages, meaning all of the languages. Because whoever came to present the case would come from different parts of the world, and you cannot believe a translator, an interpreter. You have to know what he's saying from his language. If you don't understand it, there's no way you can judge it. Because what if the interpreter is lying? So each member of the Sanhedrin had to know 70 languages. Of course, Bigtan and Teresh did not know that Mordechai knows this language. So he heard them planning to kill Achashverosh. And he went and he told Esther. Why did he tell Esther? Achashverosh was an anti-Semite. Achashverosh is not a friend of the Jews. Because Achashverosh was in a position of power. And the Mishnah in Masechet Avot also says, the Jewish people pray for the well-being of the leadership of the countries they reside in. Why? Because if it wasn't for the leadership, people will eat each other alive. So even though sometimes the leadership, and most of the times, the leadership picks on the Jews and issues decrees against them, we still don't have the permission to go against the leaders of the countries we reside in. Because if it wasn't for them, people would eat each other in the streets, including us, meaning the matters will be much worse. This is also a warning to all of these lefty liberal Jews that go against the government here in America or in Israel or anywhere else that you're living in. You have no permission to do that. You don't like the country? Leave. You don't like the government? Leave. Or stay silent. But you certainly can't speak out against it. Needless to say, caused them problems of all kinds. Mordechai knew this. And he went and he warned the king. How? By telling Esther. Now Esther is the wife of the king. She can easily say to the king, my dear husband, to show you my loyalty and my love, I just found out that these two servants you have are planning to kill you. The end. And that would be the story. The king would find out, confirm, kill these two people, and that's the end. If she would have done that, there would be no Am Yisrael today. And the Mishnah says, the reason is, because she said it in the name of Mordechai, meaning that she found this information from Mordechai. The law of the land was that you had to write anyone that did good to the king in the book of memories, so the king could repay him one day. So Mordechai's name went into the book of memories. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu made sure that he didn't get the reward right away. Today, anyone that does anything good for any king, any royalty, any person of power, you find their wallet, you're probably going to get a reward right away on the spot. Strangely, Mordechai just saved the king's life, but he doesn't get a reward for a while. Nothing happens. As if he forgot. He didn't forget. HaKadosh Baruch Hu made sure it's put on the side. The emet was buried until it eventually grows at the right time. And the right time was later on after Haman was at its peak. The decree was issued to go kill the Jews. And it was only a matter of time before all of this was going to happen. And one day the king cannot sleep. As the Zohar Kadosh says, there was an angel constantly pushing him to wake him up, throwing him off the bed. He gets out of bed and he asks for something to do. So let me read the book of memories that I have, see if I owe anybody anything. And even though the son of Haman, one of them, was in charge of the book and was trying to skip the name of Mordechai and erase it, Hashem sent an angel to keep rewriting it, and every name appear Mordechai. And when the king noticed that this son of Haman, Yimach Shemo, was trying to skip, he said, read me right now what you have in front of you. And decreed upon him to tell him the truth. When he read him the name of Mordechai, the rest of the story we all know. That's when the blessing of the salvation came to life. From there, the Mishnah in Masechet Avot says, when somebody says a teachings in the name of the source of where they got it from, they bring salvation to the world. They bring Mashiach closer. And thereby also teaching us that when someone says something, a teaching of Torah, a teaching of anything, without bringing the source, it's not just questionable, it's not something that's peculiar, but if it's a teaching of Torah, it is delaying the Mashiach. It's delaying the salvation, because it appears as if there's either no source and therefore it's a lie, or you're stealing the source and pretending as if it's yours. And therefore delaying, another sin, delaying the Mashiach. So we see from here, Rabotai, that truth is not just something that's suggested to the Jewish people. It's not just something that is exemplary with HaKadosh Baruch Hu as his signature, exemplary with Yaakov Avinu as this is his main thing. This is the foundation of Torah. This is, in fact, the only way the Jewish people have survived. And so long as we allow the lies to continue from false teachers, from false leaders, we ourselves are putting the weapons in Esau's hands to kill us. We ourselves are putting the poison in Esau's hands to poison us. Allowing the liars to continue to lead is not just a risk for the people that listen to him. It's a risk for the entire nation. It's a risk for the entire world. Now I know there's going to be some people that say this is exaggerated, this is too much. Give me a source for what you said, because you just got a bunch that support everything that we just said. You see, Rabotai Karim, our sages teach us that if a person lies accidentally, it's one thing, because it doesn't happen often. But if someone lies chronically, regularly, it's become their shita, their way, their strategy. This is a danger to society. Now you would say, yeah, but maybe if we teach this liar Torah, then they're gonna say the truth eventually. For that, I'll give you a story. A story I just heard today. A real life story with some mussar in it. In fact, same exact thing happened to me years ago. Funny, but needless to say, a lot of mussar in it. One of the family members of Rabbi Ephraim, his aunt, I believe, she bought a plant. And she bought this plant. It was a beautiful plant, but it was rather small, so she was making sure to water it every day and take it outside to put it in the sun for a little while, and then bring it back in. She took care of this plant like a baby. Every day she waters it. Every day she takes it out, waiting for the thing to grow. A year passed. The thing is exactly the same size as she got it. She found it strange. But there's not much you can do. She continued. One day, her son comes to visit the house. And she remembers, you know what, my son, you're in agriculture, right? You deal with plants. Yeah, Ima, that's what I do for a living. Oh, okay. Come look at my plant. Tell me what you think. Because it's not growing. Maybe there's something wrong with it. Maybe it has a disease. Maybe I'm not feeding it the right food. The son says, sure, where is it? He goes, it's already it's in the balcony. It's out there, it's getting its sun. Okay. The son goes outside. 30 seconds later, he's back laughing. He didn't mean to insult his mom, but he's laughing. And she goes, what's laughing? What are you laughing? Why, it's so small? He goes, no, Ima, I don't know how to tell you this, but it's not real. It's plastic. She says, what? What do you mean it's plastic? It's real. He goes, no, Ima, come, look, there's all paint. It's not real. And she couldn't believe it's not real, but it's not real. But it was such a good job that it looked real. As a side note, the same exact happened to me like 15, 20 years ago. You can laugh at me too, not just Rabbi Ephraim's aunt. I had 2 big plants on my balcony on the 35th floor in New York. These plants looked really cool. We had them. One day I had a bunch of people come to my house for some party we had. And a few people asked me, oh yeah, where'd you get these? I told them, I don't know, some store. They're real? I said, sure, why not? I didn't know any different. One day, it was time for us to move. Oh wait, move the plants. We moved the plants, realized plant's fake. It's not real. All this time we're watering the plant. It didn't need to grow, it was huge. 2 of them. They're not real. You can laugh at my credit too. But what's the point of all this? One of the members of Team HaShem also happens to be the sister of Rabbi Ephraim. So you already know the wisdom is already in the family. Rabbanit Rachel Zomel. She says, there's a Mussar lesson to learn from here. This Mussar lesson is, that if something is real, if a person is real, if you water it, meaning water Torah, you give it Torah, it'll grow. If someone's an honest person, even if they started secular, even if they started atheist, even if they started as an idol worshiper, but if they're an honest person and they're real, you give them Torah, they will grow, they will get better, they will leave their lies, they will leave the falsehood that they currently believe to be true. They will grow out of it. But if a person is a liar, if a person is a faker, it doesn't matter how much water you give him. It doesn't matter how much Torah you give him. He will stay the same, fake as he always was. From here we see why Rav Wasserman, alav shalom, said that people that are atheist, that are questioning even the existence of God, are much worse than idol worshippers. Because the idol worshipper, at least he believes in something. He believes in something higher. Whereas the atheist believes he is the highest. He has turned himself into a god. But in truth, he knows he's not. He just doesn't want to admit that anything else is better than him. But he'd rather stay a faker to protect some image rather than humble himself and tell the truth, that he's been simply speaking lies. He doubles down on the falsehood rather than admit his mistakes. You see, Rabotai Karim, the Chazon Ish is not just teaching us that lies are not good. Lies are simply terrible. No. He's telling us that lies are antithetical to the Jewish people. Lies are an anti-atheistic type of exercise, type of activity. Lies are no different than idolatry. Lies are literally the root of all evil. And the worst part about them is that they always start small, white, seemingly painless, until they grow and grow and create so much damage, it's almost impossible to repair without removing parts of it like you do cancer, because there is no other choice. Lies, Rabotai, are not just tragic for the listeners, for the ones deceived. Lies are tragic even for the ones that don't know that it existed, because at some point, those lies grow big enough where they affect everyone, even the people that never heard them directly. HaKadosh Baruch Hu's signature is Emet. It's not just a saying, it's a reality. To allow lies to exist, in so many words, is to remove our belief in God from certain parts of our lives. Don't let the liars continue to manipulate society. Speak up. Say something. Do something. Always with words, never with violence. But most importantly, don't just sit there and do nothing. Because at some point, it will affect you too. Thanks again for learning with me. May Hashem bless each and every single one of you that not only have heard the truth, but will follow it and teach it to your kids and to your kids' kids. Kol tuv, bracha b'atzlacha. We'll see each other again, learn together tomorrow for the schut of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Bracha b'atzlacha. May Hashem bless all of you.
Hello everyone, I'm Sunny Gigi from the BeEzrat organization, and I'm very excited to share that we're working on a new project, a very inspiring podcast called Returning to HaShem. Each episode is going to feature a special guest who will share his tshuva journey and amazing events that took place in their lives in order to return to HaShem. If you've been inspired by Rabbi Reuven, Rabbi Katan, or by the organization, I invite you to share your story and give our fellow Jews chizuk and hope that they too can follow in the same path. If you're interested, please send an email to sunny@beizrathashem.org. Thank you for all your support. May Hashem strengthen us all to do tshuva every day.